In this slide, we're talking about the vSphere web client. Now, you may notice that the web client has different requirements than the desktop client, and their requirements are a little bit more here. Here we require a quad core with a minimum of 2 gigahertz processing power. Right? We also require a minimum of 2 gigabytes of RAM. You also need to have a compatible browser that has a Flash player installed in it, right? So you need to have a Flash plugin. Flash plugin needs to be 10.1 or greater, right? 10.1 version X or up. You also need to have a browser that is either IE7, IE8, Firefox 3.6. Those are the supported browsers that VMware will support when you interface with the web client. You can try using Chrome, Opera, Safari, or any other browser out there that has the Flash plugin enabled. Your mileage may vary depending on how it translates the JavaScript code, right, and the AJAX code. So keep that in mind when you're looking for support and when you're trying to use a specific browser to interface with the vCenter server. One of the other things that you'll need to know about the differences between the vSphere desktop client and the web browser is that there's limited configuration capability. So you cannot configure an ESX host here the same way you would be able to configure it within the vSphere desktop client, right? The vSphere desktop client lets you drill down and start configuring the security policies, the DNS, the NIC cards, and all these other good things there. This one here, this particular web client is useful for day-to-day administration. It's useful for the help desk, useful for any junior admins you may have on the team, useful to get people familiar with the vSphere environment. It's also good for developers, right? If you want to have the developers access their specific virtual machines, you can have them use this web client to do so. It's pretty lightweight, it's pretty flexible, and it's really got a nice clean interface to it in this version. Now, future versions, where the trend is going to a vendor-neutral interface. So what this means is you're going to see some more enhancements to the web client, and you're going to see that desktop client become more vendor neutral. So it's not just limited to Microsoft operating systems, right? So keep that in mind as you move towards the vSphere web client. I would highly recommend using the web client, getting familiar with it. It's really tempting to install the desktop client and use that for your day-to-day tasks. But as you have a more robust environment and more shareholders or more stakeholders logging into your vCenter server, you're going to want them doing so from the vCenter web client. The vSphere web client installation is pretty simple. Again, if you have the vCenter server installation disk up, you can launch the installer directly from the